Sexual assault and violence on campus in the age demographic of 18 to 24 is a very, very prevalent and very serious issue. We can get past it, but we can't get past it in silence. This is an issue that doesn't have to happen. It really doesn't. No means no.
Sexual assault is a common problem that occurs on university campuses. Resources are available to deal with it, but smaller campuses, such as the Augustana campus of the University of Alberta, are at a disadvantage. The lack of resources is just the beginning. People don't want to deal with the lack of resources because the topic of sexual assault is so sensitive. 9 students came together to take a closer look at this issue. So we wanted to ask students what resources they thought were available if someone gets sexually assaulted. What resources are available on campus for sexual assault victims?
I remember reading a pamphlet about this, but I don't actually know the location or the people to talk to. I just know that there is something.
I know for sure that there are the school counselors that they have at Augustana. I know that with RAs, they've been giving some training on how to talk to people who've had sexual assault issues, but otherwise I don't know of any particular resources on campus for dealing with sexual assault other than the school counselors.
I know at the beginning of the year they had a sexual something week where they talked about stuff and they gave out resources or whatever, but it's never anything I've ever thought about.
I don't actually know any of the resources.
So hearing the uncertainty of students was really unsettling to us, and so we wanted to conduct interviews with students and professionals as to what resources are available to students who have been victimized by sexual assault.
What are the unique challenges that rural or urban areas face when confronting sexual assault?
I would say we're relatively lucky at Augustana in that we have counselors that are relatively easy to access. They're familiar, we see them around, they're not just, these counselors hired by the university, they're real people that we see around. And there are, the hospitals and that sort of thing. But in terms of specialized psychiatric care, I don't know how much of that actually exists in Camrose.
What resources are available for victims of sexual assault?
There's lots of resources out there. It's just the stigma of reaching out to those resources. It's a very difficult first step. But once that first step is made, they're going to find themselves in the comfort of those who really understand what they're going through and want to help them heal.
1 in 5 University of Alberta students experience sexual assault. Learning that Camrose doesn't have as many resources compared to larger centers is problematic. What do you think are some of the biggest problems regarding sexual assault on campus?
In terms of Augustana specifically, I think it's the mentality of it doesn't happen here. Realizing that just because we're a small campus, tight-knit community, that doesn't mean we're immune.
What are the unique challenges that individuals face when confronting sexual assault?
Re-stigmatization is very prominent. So people just choose to stay silent, which just allows the crime to continue to be perpetrated. Silence breeds further sexual violence.
So what we have learned from these interviews is that there needs to be more resources available regarding this pressing issue.
By bringing awareness to students on the topic of sexual assault is one of the best ways that we can create a safe environment for victims and also a place for open dialogue for a greater understanding for students.
By promoting open dialogue, we can ensure that students feel like their voices are being heard.
Overwhelmed and exasperated, I live in a world that is so animated, filled with hatred, where rapists are made presidents and survivors are alienated. I guess that's how it works. That's how it's always been done. A culture founded in oppression, a society of silence, all wrapped in one. We'd rather believe what we want rather than face the reality that 60% of sexual assault victims are under the age of 17, or that 80% of sex crime victims are women. I could go on, and likely you could too. Well, that's a tragedy, they say. Injustice, they say. An insensible crime of insanity, they say. Think about his future, they say. Boys will be boys, they say. Yet they say you are the problem. Maybe you shouldn't have dressed like that. talk like that, walk like that. I mean, what did you expect? I mean, have some respect. Look at him. He's such a great runner. A charm like Kobe and a smile like Turner. Like a knight in shining armor. And all you want to do is take away his honor. Crying about your post-traumatic stress disorder. But wait, would you say the same thing if it was murder? Would you say the same thing if it happened to your sister, mother, or father? This is a societal problem of global proportions. A fundamental distortion of our culture and interpretation. A failure of conversation. Because here's the reality. Even when we preach justice, justice tells us to close our legs. An insensible ignorance that society has ingrained in our heads. With every sexual assault that happens every 98 seconds, we tend to victim blame and cast out on the situation rather than realize we are part of the problem. Scrap that. I want to be the solution, not a problem. But God, I have a confession. I plead guilty to the crime of silence, of conforming to a culture of sexual violence. So therefore, I share the blame of this incomprehensible pain. But if you don't even try to change, well, that's insane. I want to break out of this silence. The hell with the media, I need your guidance. You have made your enterprise, but like rebels we will mobilize. And mark my words, we will not compromise. Because this is an epidemic of global proportions. And rape culture is our viral infection. And we are the key to its eradication. And education is our antiviral medication. A source of realization that will save us from this deception of seeing that this is not a woman's issue. So to my brothers, I call on you to educate one another. Because knowledge is not born with a sense of right and wrong. But only through education, guidance, and internalization can we kill this virus. We can either stay silent or face stagnation, or march on forward and open up a conversation. Because education is key to changing a culture that has left millions of survivors voiceless. The reality is that this poem will not change any laws, and no laws, hashtags, or Gaga songs will change our ways. And this is not about justice. This is about changing who we are. And I know that's not easy. I know it's hard. But true change comes from within. But when we wake up, when we speak up, and when we stand up and start that conversation, that's when we win. That's why I'm not going to be no bystander, because I want to stand by you. But we're not going to win unless you stand up too.